could say that, like, oh, dude, I'll always admit that I'm wrong. Like, I am the most virtuous person, right? I am the most, like, all this type of stuff, right? But what really happens when that circumstance is presented to you, right? Like, what are you actually going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, you could say I'm going to go up to that chick, right? Like, dude, say the night before, you're talking to your roommate, like, I'm going to go up to that hot chick tomorrow that I see in the gym every single day. But what happens when you're in that circumstance? You never go up to her.
No.
Right? Because you have to change your identity. Right?
Yeah.
You have to change. You have to say to your.
I put my phone on, do not disturb. Don't wanna talk, I don't want
YouTube, it's your boy Cal, bringing you another video on the channel today, baby. So today we're bringing back the 13th episode of the Conscious Cast, and today's 1-3, and today we're talking about being okay with being wrong.
Yes.
And this is a big thing that, unfortunately, in the United States and probably a good portion of the world fears, you know? And when our core beliefs are challenged, right? And the things that we value so dearly to our heart are kind of jeopardized and are vulnerable, and they could be revealed as wrong, right?
Yeah.
Like those beliefs that we truly have that we're maybe not consciously thinking about, but are deeply rooted within us. That's when things start to get a little bit shaky, and we can either turn to ignorance or we can turn to the truth. And
or turn to ego.
to ego.
That's a big thing, too.
Yeah, and turn to ego, and then that turns to many avenues of like things such as ignorance, right?
Yeah.
Staying ignorant to stay in the comfort of your own beliefs.
Yeah.
Even though you know deep down that may not be true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest things that I have found, like, with this example of ignorance is, I did, like, a whole video on this. I mean, it was, like, probably one of the best videos on my channel, and more so the cinematic videos I want to continue doing on this channel. It's just, you know, school's a bit busy, but, you know, next week there should be a, there should be a video out. I've been holding off on it for a couple weeks, but it should be out soon. But pretty much, like I said, it's like when our core values are challenged, and willing to be wrong for the sake of, like, jeopardizing your own comfort. I remember I was out to breakfast with, like, a friend, and I was telling them how, like what eggs are made out of, right? And they were like, do not tell me what eggs are made out of. It is the only thing I like. Just don't tell me. I don't even want to hear it. And they were just like, let me enjoy my eggs regardless. They taste good. That's all that matters. I'm like, well, you know, like, don't get me wrong. Eggs, like, they're healthy for you, right, to a certain extent, but there's a lot of science showing behind it that it's not the best for you, right? And
You're talking about, like, the yolks?
yeah, like, to be honest, I don't know too much into it. This was just kind of like a fact I stumbled upon back then, but anyways, like, just to kind of, like, bounce that example off it, like they didn't want to hear that information or become aware of that certain perspective, because it would make them feel uncomfortable, and it would make them feel distress, which I totally understand, and that's how we've been conditioned, you know? And it's easy to stay in your comfort zone. It's easy to stay in that convenience, you know? But you have to, as, like, an open thinker, and as, like, I guess you could even say a virtuous person, to be aligned with the truth. That's when you see the most growth, right? Like, when you, like you said, like, no growth happens outside your comfort zone, right? And when you step outside that and you're willing to be wrong, right? And you're not always so attached to being right, that's when you see true catalytic advancement in your life.
Yeah. And it's like, that statement is so evergreen, because that's one of those, that's a truth. You can never, like, if you stay in your comfort zone, if you only do what's comfortable to you, you're never going to grow. And, like, a big thing about that is willing to admit you're wrong. And a lot of people are, like, this is so apparent with, like, girls, especially on social media. They'll, like, you know, the Instagram politicians, as I like to call them, that are spouting their like,
their stories,
their stories about stuff they don't really know all that much about, or something, you know, like, just they hop on the bandwagon, really, and they refuse to like, hear other people's sides. And that's a lot of, you know, that's a lot of today, very much. You know, everybody's divided in this whole political climate.
Tribalism.
Yes, but, like, it's either a byproduct of tribalism. You know, they want to be a part of something because they feel like an outcast or something. They need approval from other people. or it's an ego thing. Like, you know, this is going on right now. Two friends of mine are having like an argument, or you know, they're like not talking to each other or whatever, and like, it's I don't care about it because it's like, don't get me wrong, it sucks that I have to navigate around this bullshit, but they're being children. It doesn't like it's over some stupid bullshit, and it's like, sure, there could be other underlying factors that I'm not really aware of, but it's like, dude, neither of them want to admit they're wrong, and they're being fucking stupid about it. And I'm like, dude, just shut the fuck up and be the bigger man. That's all it is.
They're holding grudges, right? Kind of, in a sense.
Yeah.
Maybe not in like regard to that, but like people holding grudges against each other. Like, I think everyone's almost guilty of that for some amount of time.
And you know what it is? It's like people like like I said in the episode, the School of Hard Knocks episode. It's like people refuse to admit they're wrong because it's like, it feels like it's like an attack on them. And it's like, dude, what the hell are you doing? You need to divorce yourself from your ideas. Because especially going back to the Instagram politician thing, they're attaching their personality to these ideals just so they can be a part of a group. And that's the stupidest thing on the planet. But then again, like I was telling you before the last episode we recorded, like I'm one of those guys who can work in the shadows. You know, I don't need approval from anybody to get my shit done. Now, sometimes I get carried away and I get distracted, but everybody does. We're human.
Of course.
But it's like I don't need approval from anybody else to get shit done. And a lot of people will pursue like false pursuits out of like expecting things from other people. For me, it's like, I'm going to get good because I want to, and I don't need anybody else to tell me that I'm good. Mm-hmm. You know, my work will show for itself, but I don't complete the work for that thing. But it's like, I only get good by admitting you're wrong. Yeah. You know, like, because I look at me, like, I'm open to hear everything that, you know, anybody wants to tell me. Because it's just like, there's a chance that there's something in here that I don't know. And if somebody, you know, in an argument counters something that I say. You know, not an argument necessarily, a debate, for lack of a better term. You know, like an intellectual conversation with different points.
You're not really trying to persuade each other, right?
Yeah. It's just presenting the facts and hopes that, like, that's why
the truth.
Exactly. So it's like, I'm, like, James is a good example because he, you know, he knows a lot about, you know, his side of the political, like, spectrum. And I'll talk about politics for the sake of talking about politics, but I have no dog in that ring, you know, or no hat in the ring or whatever. But it's like, I talk about it just to like understand different points of views. And James does that too. It's like, we can have a conversation without it getting personal. And that's a lot. That's what people need to do more. They need to stop attaching their personality and their selves to these ideas, because, you know, they don't matter. Truth be told, you know, in a grand scale they matter, but to you, what the fuck are they really other than a talking point? And that's what you have to look at them as, because they're just information. You ascribe intent to this information, but you don't have to, because it's just information. You know, and I look at it that way because it's what it is. And I look at being wrong as an opportunity to learn. And that's how you probably should look at it, to grow. Because it's like, if I'm really wrong about something, I'm going to ask more questions about it and try and learn, like, tell me more. You know, like, I've never heard of that, tell me more. I don't understand, I'm saying something that could be wrong, and if I'm checked on whether or not I'm wrong, I'll ask more about it, because it's a learning opportunity. It's a opportunity to correct something I previously believed, and maybe take it in a different direction. You know, it's very, you know, helpful to think of it that way, because it only permits growth if you consider, like, mistakes and failure and being wrong as a learning experience, because that'll help you. That's helped me at least divorce myself from making it personal, you know, and taking the ego out of it, which is what you really should be doing, because if you're fucking trying to assert yourself on other people with your beliefs, or you're trying to spread some bullshit because it makes you feel good, like, it doesn't matter. You have to take your ego out of it, you know. And I try and be as humble as I can, when I can. Sometimes I'll get, when I'm getting competitive, it'll be like, oh, fucking really, But everybody does that.
Yeah.
And most of the time it's playful.
Uh-huh.
But, sometimes, get into that crush 'em mentality.
Yeah.
But that's, you have to take your ego out of things so you can properly process the information and learn from it the best you can. You have to be a sponge. A sponge exists. And then whatever you pour onto it, it will absorb.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to wring out the bullshit and be able to absorb new information.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a couple things that I thought of while you were talking was, one, it's not personal.
Yeah.
Two, when there is a group. So let me back up for a second.
Yeah.
A lot of times, like when you're not in an environment where you don't even question yourself, right? And let's just say you're alone, right? And it's just you thinking, right? And to you could think like that is the answer, like that is the absolute answer to whatever question you're pondering, right?
Yeah.
And so, like through that, you're sitting there in your own beliefs you're like, okay, I'm never checking that belief again because in my mind it makes perfect sense. Like the reasoning behind it is totally logical, right? But then when you go up against someone with a different perspective, like a diverse individual or people from all walks of life, what do you know? They fucking check it and they completely, your perspective is completely ridden of like the logic that you once had. And don't get me wrong, there's probably some truth to it, but it's not the whole truth that you thought of, right?
Yeah.
And so kind of applying that to groups, when whole entire groups do that, every single individual within that group kind of is attuned to the same beliefs, right? And they're no longer questioning what they value. They're no longer questioning, like, oh, is this actually what is true? Is this actually what makes sense? Am I considering all perspectives? Because, when you a big deal of philosophy is like what we're doing right now, right?
Yeah.
We're inquiring open questions, right?
Yes.
Questions that have major gaps and are not observable, or you're able to do through math, right? And so, like through this, we can see like when groups get together and like it's called groupthink in psychology.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, like it's like the sheep going to the slaughterhouse, right? And they're just guided by that unawareness. And like you said, they're not willing to face new information, right?
Yeah.
They're just guided to the slaughterhouse, but they don't know it's the slaughterhouse. They think it's probably like their home or like they're going to get food or something, right? But then that black sheep is going in a different direction, right? And Ralph Smart, who's like one of my favorite guys, he's like, I'd rather go in my own direction that I know is right than follow a crowd going in the wrong direction, right? And so with that, we can kind of see you have to be a free thinker, right?
Yeah.
And you have to take a step back and realize that you are not all-knowing, right? Although you may have that all-knowing, like, intelligence within you, like, say I get a cut and it automatically heals, right? You have that all-knowing intelligence within you, but our minds can't understand that completely, right?
Yeah.
We can comprehend it to a, like, don't get me wrong, humans know a fuck ton, but we also don't know shit at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so...
Dude, we don't know shit about the bottom of the fucking ocean.
Yo.
You know how much shit's in the ocean?
Yeah.
It's most of our planet, and we don't know shit.
Yeah, exactly.
We barely know shit about the rainforest.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, yeah, just like look at that. Like look at what we're doing in like business, right?
That's a very tangible example, but it's the same thing goes.
Yeah,
It's
no,
like
100%. It's like once you open one door, like fucking 15,000 to open up, and
it's like it's kind of like that hallway in The Shining. It's just like the door, and there's like two creepy little girls. Except remove the horror aspect. It's a hallway of doors. You open a door, another hallway, more doors. You open another door in the hallway, more doors.
Yeah,
it's a reality branch, is what it is. But it's crazy.
Yeah, and it's so hard for our minds to comprehend. And don't get me wrong, people who do like figure this shit out, like oh my god, it's incredible, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's so respectable. But when we make that humongous jump from like having a belief with nearly no evidence to support it, right? Like a great deal of conspiracy theories in regards to COVID. Like people think, like for example, like they're having a chip being put in them with the vaccine, right? Like, and then they make all these other assumptions, like blah 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 blah. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna preface this off of that conspiracy theory. Number one, from a cybersecurity perspective, a government contractor working perspective. They don't need to tip you. You have a supercomputer in your pocket that you carry around you 24 hours a day that you that they can hear you with. You know,
Yeah.
it's if they don't need to chip you. They know where you're going because of this in your pocket.
No, 100%. Like, yeah,
But-
if they were to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I would love to get into that, but, you know, we'll save that for another time,
Yeah.
all right? Just to keep it more on point. It's like you said, willing to be wrong, man. And
Yeah.
it's not like... it's not like you're throwing out a comment just to be wrong, right? You're gonna give your most valid opinion
Yeah.
on something, right? You're most logical. And
Be 100%.
Yeah,
with,
be 100%.
Like, you got to be real with
Be-
your
yeah,
with your
exactly.
beliefs because
Yeah.
it's good to be wrong because it checks your perspective.
Yeah,
and that's so important because
Yeah.
it's such a good learning experience. You know, if you think you're right all the time,
and you're attached to being right. too.
yeah, exactly. It's like you're gonna be, you know, like I'll head it with the fucking best quote. I love this quote because it is the man who claims to be the wise man that is truly the fool. Because the fool admits that he does not know everything. So the fool is truly the wise man.
Yeah.
Because he is willing to accept what he does not know. And he understands that he knows nothing. For the wise man that is always right, believes he is infallible. He knows everything. But he truly knows nothing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one last thing I'll say before we close out this segment is that when we, like you said, when someone acts as like they're all knowing, right? Like
Yeah.
consciously all knowing through their mind and conceptually, they. Oh my god, you gotta be fucking kidding me! Okay, I remembered it. It's like, and like when they are proven to be wrong, right? Like,
Yeah.
and like no matter how much evidence they have to back it up, it's purely objective. They'll fall back on their subjective excuse reasoning, right? And they'll continue to make excuses in order to stay in the comfort of their own beliefs and boundaries, right? In order to maintain that
Illusion.
Illusion.
Of all of omnipotence.
and satisfactory of being right.
Yeah. Fucking splendid.
I remember, like, when I was a kid, right, and, like, going throughout high school, like, you know, like, in high school, like, I was very inauthentic, right? And this, a lot of times, would cause me to get into arguments a lot, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and because I was so attached to being right, I was so attached to outcome, right? And it was crazy because it's like I could be calm in one state, and then if someone offers a perspective that, like I
Challenges
said,
yours.
challenges, threatens me, and puts me in that fight or flight stance. It's like, oh shit, I gotta defend this, like with my fucking everything I have, and in order to be right, in order to ensure that I don't know like what's going on. Like I remember one time I was in like a Call of Duty lobby, and fucking like this dude was talking about like HARP, like the conspiracy theory, and he's like, dude, the government can control the weather, right? And like back then, I was like, dude, there's no way the government can control the weather, like, bro, like as I've grown up and as I've realized, like, don't get me wrong, I have not really looked into HARP at all, but like, just with looking at life and just becoming more aware and consciously, like, brain development, like, bro, I'm sure they can do something. Like, I'm sure they can do something with the weather. Like, I don't know what the fuck it is. Like, I'm not trying to make any outrageous claims, but I'm sure they have some type of technology in some Antarctic base or, you know,
Yeah, there's
the pole. You know,
that's another thing. You have to understand that, like, on a big government level, the wool is being pulled over your eyes.
yeah, exactly.
That's just you. But you just have to exist knowing that.
Yeah.
Now sometimes people will, like, recede and be whacked out at their fucking mind, like. Government's watching me, but it's just like, you take the tinfoil hat off. They're scheming.
Yeah.
The government's
They're always scheming.
They're always scheming.
Yeah.
Their job is to scheme.
Yeah.
But it's like you just have to exist knowing that
That's just going on.
yeah, there's puppetry going on that you don't understand.
Yeah. And as long as you're aware it's going on, right, and you could be, and the reality that's portrayed, right, the reality that's out here, and portrayed by politicians, media, any type of just really celebrity figure on Instagram, you know, they like
whatever propaganda they try to feed you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
And create the reality they want, because a lot of times, like they won't acknowledge when they make a mistake, right? They won't,
not at all.
No,
they will deny that shit to the end because it is like
or they'll jump around it.
Yeah, exactly. Because like that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Because like celebrities and fucking like politicians and shit, they are up on that pedestal and they don't want to be knocked down.
Yeah.
So they will fucking fight tooth and nail to stay up there. as long as they can.
Yeah.
You know, and props to like celebrities that are 100%.
Yeah,
They're
right. That's
like,
what I'm saying.
like fucking Mike Tyson is the perfect example. Like, he was a crazy fucking motherfucker.
Joe Rogan too.
And Joe Rogan too. Like Joe admits he's wrong. Now this is aside from all the bullshit going on.
I mean,
with
he
this
keeps it
COVID.
real regardless.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm. No, not
You
just
know,
like
and
being
he
wrong.
and he says but like he admits like on his podcast all the time. Like, don't listen to me. I'm a fucking moron. You know, and it's like, you know, everyone's yelling at him about this COVID shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't take him serious. He's not a medical doctor. What are you taking him seriously for? You know?
It's on you.
And everybody's like, you have a big platform. It's just like, he says, don't listen to me. I'm a fucking idiot. I'm a comedian. I make dick jokes. You know? It's like, and then you have like Mike Tyson, who has like, as a person, grown so much since he was like a crazy motherfucker in the 90s.
Yeah.
And it's like, his podcast is fucking great because he's fucking 100% now, like in terms of being real. Like, yeah, he acknowledges his demons and like the power that it gave them, but he's also a changed man, having interacted with, like, understanding those demons. You know, it's crazy, like how much growth Mike Tyson has come in through as a person. But like now he's willing to admit he's wrong and stuff like that. You know, it's weird because his comfort zone was that demon. You know, and it's like, it's weird to really look at that. Like, being a fucking monster is where you're comfortable. Like, holy shit,
Yeah,
that's
right.
real.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
You know, that really makes you take a step back and look like, holy fucking shit.
Yeah.
Like, no way.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's another thing. Like, you know, being wrong will take you out of your comfort zone. It checks the reality.
Yeah.
And another thing is, you gotta stay fucking humble. You have like, if you feel your ego inflating with like, I gotta be right all the time and shit like that, you have to really acknowledge that you don't mean shit. Like, to yourself, you are everything.
Yeah.
But to anybody else, you don't matter. You know, like, and I love that anonymity.
Yeah.
Like, I acknowledge that in myself. I'm like, that's literally, I told you about, I said this in a previous episode. I was so glad to come into college because I'm like, finally, nobody gives a shit about me.
Yeah,
I
right.
can be me.
Yeah,
I don't have to
yeah.
worry about the stigma people attach to me from like middle school or elementary
Yeah.
school. Like, I don't need this bullshit.
Yeah.
I can be me.
Yeah.
I can be real.
Yeah.
And people will fucking people will like or dislike me for being fucking real.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so liberating being free of that bullshit. You know? And it's like, now, like, that's the same thing. Like, I can be 100%, and my ego it doesn't matter. Because it's like, you don't give a shit about me. You don't give a shit about me. I don't give a shit. I don't have to give a shit about you. You know, it's like, nobody cares. And I love it.
Yeah.
Because it, like, that kind of enables me to, like, do, I forget who said it, but like, do shadow work, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And like, it sounds like it's a very dark connotation, but it's like being able to work in silence. It's being able to step back and do your own thing, no matter what anyone else tells you.
Yeah, with no attention's on you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it's so good because it's like, you're free to do what you want. The only thing that exists is you and whatever you're doing. So if you like divorce yourself from like your ego, outside perspectives, you can get so much more done if it's just you. But you really do have to work on holding yourself accountable. And now,
yeah, no, it's a big part of it, holding yourself accountable.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and especially
yeah. Oh
with
my
like,
God, how have we not talked about that?
especially being wrong.
Yeah.
Like, you have to consciously check your ego every time. Like, it's this whole, like, being wrong is very much leaving your bullshit at the door. And like, that's whenever I go into something, I just fucking drop the bag, walk in.
Yeah.
You know, that's how you got to do it.
Yeah.
And I slip up. Everybody does.
Of course, yeah, you're human. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, but you have to stay humble. Like,
Beware.
like, that right there, me saying that I slip up, that's keeping it real. That is admitting when I am wrong.
Yeah.
And that I am not infallible. You have to make sure that you constantly remind yourself that, hey, I'm not the shit. But what I'm doing will, like, direct me towards what I need. Like, you know, it'll better me if I take my feelings out of it. You know, not like don't feel. You know, be in the moment.
Yeah.
But it's like
you don't become your feelings.
yes,
Yeah.
that's a great way to put it.
You be objective rather than subjective.
Yes.
Right?
You want to like we said. I said this so many times this episode. You want to remove yourself from your ideas, because that's the way to keep it fucking real.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can leave your bullshit at the door. Truly, you know, it's like you go into something as a blank slate,
As neutral as possible.
yeah, like you got to go in there as a whiteboard. Actually, this is a great analogy. A debate, like an intellectual debate or conversation with two opposing sides. You as presenting your side, you should be a whiteboard, and the other person is a whiteboard. But you draw on each other. That's how you should look at it. Like, you have information, and they have information. But you pick up your papers from your whiteboard, and you walk over to the other person's, and you start drawing. You start writing shit down. You are the blank whiteboard, but you as a person, or your ideas, are being written on the other person. That's how you should look at it, really. You know, and this is very, like, if you can picture it in your mind, you can understand where I'm coming from. But it's like you need to be a blank slate for other people's ideas to be acknowledged. Like, you have to realize that you don't know everything, but this guy could know something that I don't.
Yeah.
So that's what I approach stuff as. Now, if someone's just, you know, being an arrogant douche and trying to be right all the time, you know, obviously they're probably, like, sure they might have something that I'm missing, but odds are it's emotionally charged. And it's like, your emotions devalue the information that you're presenting. And you have to check that in order to come across, I guess, intellectual, I suppose, but it's not about how you come across, it's how what you're portraying. And not the value you ascribe to it, but the value it has neutrally as information.
Yeah, gotcha.
And information checks other information. So you have to realize, like, you have to look at what you know and look at what the other person knows and realize what is truth. And you can't become so obsessed with the truth that you need to, you know, obsess over it. But you need to acknowledge that, like, what I know might not be the truth.
Yeah.
And, like, you need to be honest with yourself that, like, hey, you know, especially if you fuck up. If you fuck up, you need to admit you're wrong. You have to be bigger. Because honor in losing is better than, you know, arrogance in defeat. You know what I mean? Or like false victory.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was like a Silver Surfer quote where it was like, this is kind of loosely based on what we're talking about, but it was like there is honor in failure, but there is but the shameful thing is never trying at all. So it's like, essentially, if you can, don't be a sore loser, I guess is what I'm getting at. You know, if you can fail with grace and be wrong with respect,
Yeah.
that's really a sign of character. If you're willing to admit you're wrong in front of another person, that's very much a big thing to do. You know, now if people shit on you for being wrong, you know, that just shows how childish they are.
Yeah.
And, you know, but it's like, I hate the term maturity because it's thrown around a lot by, like, girls and stuff. Like, it's immature. I'm like, dude, I can't fucking stand that word just because of that, how it's used. It's just like, but you have to be an adult about it. And it's like, you have to be mature. I fucking feel like I'm throwing up on my mouth using that word. But it's like, you know, it is what it is. You have to recognize that, like, you need to take a step back and you have to be the bigger man. Which is also kind of a whack statement in and of itself, because it's like, it implies you're better for taking the tactical L, but I mean, it's like,
No, it's like you said, the tactical L. I actually really like that.
Oh, dude, I use that all the time.
No, it's kind of factual though.
Yeah, like, dude, okay, I'm gonna before you get on
No,
that,
you're good.
I'm going to tell you the origin of the tactical L.
gotcha.
Like, in the relationships, you sometimes got to take the tactical L.
Yeah.
Because, like, you have to, you got to admit you're wrong in the small of it. If it's like something like your girl is pissed about and it's nothing, you got to take the tactical L. So you can move past it and stop worrying about the bullshit. If you make a big deal out of something small that they're making something big out of, it doesn't matter. You just take the tactical L, move on, and, you know, maybe get some neck.
yeah. But it's like,
Hey! We're referencing a Larry Gow meme. Don't worry about it. But, you know, that's
You wouldn't get it. You don't know.
That's the origin of the tactical L.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to take the tactical L to really grow. But continue with what you were saying.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about this too. It's just not worth it, you know. If someone's
No,
it's just not worth it.
Not
you know?
fucking at all.
If someone's like, damn, yo, like I need to be right at all costs. I'm like, let's go, be right. I know what's up. Like I know that I may not be completely right, but I know that you're fucking wrong. Like, you know,
it's literally like, okay, you can say you're right all you want, but it doesn't mean that you are right.
It doesn't mean that you're right. Like, I acknowledge that I have a margin of error, right?
Oh,
but like when we compare, like when I'm taking their information and I'm like, I can see what you're doing right now. Like you're cherry picking the argument. You're cherry picking, like
that's.
You know what I mean? Like, you're just taking, like, the smallest thing and be like, oh, well, how about this? Well, how about that? Well, maybe this, you know? And, like, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I'm sure, like, they have a good point. But it's, like, when you constantly do that and you're stuck, like you said, it's childish, man. And it's, like, it leads in the wrong direction. Like, you're trying to persuade rather than more towards the truth. Like,
yeah, and even if you are, like, you shouldn't try and persuade anybody.
Yeah.
You should just talk.
Yeah, for sure. And it just...
And, like... The reason why talk is cheap is because, like, people will charge their emotions with it, you know? It's like, talk, like, I love that term, like, talk is cheap, actions speak louder than words, because I don't need to say anything because my actions will speak for themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Like, I give it to you straight.
Yeah.
I don't need bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm wrong. That's how it is, you know? Like, I'm not so attached to being right that I attach my entire personality to it. You know, like I was saying before, in my previous relationship, being wrong kind of came up a lot because I was in this relationship when it came to my partner. I was always right, you know, and it's like, because just from how I understood her and how she, felt all the time. Like, I could pinpoint when she was anxious a lot because, the body language kind of told the whole story. And, like, she would be sending me, like, stuff on Snapchat where it's like, she'd be, like, cleaning the house, and I'm like, you're having a manic episode, aren't you? I'm like, God damn it, how the fuck did you know? And she would, and I would tell her, I'm like, because when it comes to you, I'm always right. And, that comforted her, but it got to the point where it's like, it's kind of annoying how you always know what I'm doing, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm a good boyfriend. And she thought it would come off as like cocky. I'm like, everybody's like, Cole's not cocky, he's just confident, And it's like, especially when it comes to her, it's like, I knew her so well, and like she was like, you're cocky. I'm like, I'm not cocky for one reason. I'm willing to admit I'm wrong. And it's just like, I'm not so attached to being right. I literally told her, I'm not so attached to being right that I let it be my entire personality. Or something along the same line of that. But she was like, I was telling him, like, hey, if you catch me on my bullshit, I will admit that I'm wrong. And you have to do that. Especially in a relationship.
Is she? Not really.
Not once.
No.
Not once. And I'm not flexing that by any sense of the imagination.
No. It's different it's hard for people to call out other people. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not call out in a bad way, but just like to mention it. Like.
Well, yeah, no. Even then, that's not saying like I wasn't wrong. It's just there's probably times when I was wrong or she didn't tell me, but like she could just, at least how I remember it, she like never caught me lacking,
Gotcha.
But it's like, it's not that I'm so attached to that being right that I'm not willing to admit I'm wrong. It just so happened that when it came to that specific topic in that relationship, I was always right.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, sometimes you're right about shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it is.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm not so attached to it that it's my, you know, I don't make it a point in the relationship to constantly, you know, I'm always right. It's more like, oh, I guess right again.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's like, it's different than me being attached to being right.
It just happens that you are right.
Yes, exactly. You know, and that's good. But it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's the reason I am.
It's not the motive though behind it, you know.
No, it's not. Yeah, and it's also like the reason I am right is because I'm willing to admit that I'm wrong. That's a big thing. It's like, if you really want to be right all the time,
You'll find a way to be right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that, and also like
In your own delusional way.
you shouldn't be trying for that. But it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
if you are willing to admit you're wrong, there's odds are when you learn from it, there's less times you're going to be wrong.
Yeah.
But that's why, like, from this point of view, when I am wrong about something or new information is presented to me, I am conscious of it and I absorb it as best I can. So it like me, like, well, let me put it this way. By being able to admit you're wrong, you increase your chances of being right. In terms of, like, just in general, you know? Because if you soak in as much information that you can and you're willing to divorce yourself from your feelings, you're acknowledging the truth and factual information.
Yeah.
So when someone comes at you with the same argument that you once had, you're like, actually, that's wrong because of this. And I thought that way too, but I learned, someone called me out, and I'm trying to help you by telling you why maybe what you're thinking isn't all that correct.
And to add on to that, I am a person that I'm very much conditioned to be a people pleaser, and it's very hard for me to say no at times, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
so this is something I've been trying to develop and get better at over years, but it has been a big struggle of mine, right? And like I remember I was just outside like on moving day, right? And like I saw like my group of friends came over and we were talking, and like she said like, oh yeah, I was supposed to live on the 3rd floor of this building like you were, but this floor is all freshmen and all boys. And so I was like, oh man, I don't know if I really want to say anything, you know, like I don't really want to like it's really weird. Like I don't want to offer a new perspective and challenge them to make them wrong. Like I want to allow them to be right for the sake of their own comfort, but I know the truth. Like I know this floor is all freshmen and all boys, right? But she was a girl and said she was going to live on this floor, but that's not the truth, right? And that's a very minuscule example, right? But I did offer it, and I did say, I was like, actually, it's all boys and it's all freshmen, so that's not possible, right? And this is something that this type of example is something that has occurred throughout my life, right? And in the sense that I don't offer that new perspective, right?
Yeah.
And oftentimes than not, I don't. And partially that's just because I don't want to put in the effort or just be like, oh, whatever, bro. I don't care enough to say something. But when it is a circumstance where I really should say something and care because it would help that person get a better understanding, right? It would help them. And regardless of how I feel, regardless of how it makes me feel, and obviously this is dependent on the situation, but when in regards to this type of circumstance, you should say something, right?
Yeah.
And you should offer that new perspective, because if that other person is willing to be wrong, right, and is okay with that, and you're willing to be uncomfortable by offering a new perspective, or maybe you're like Cole and you're completely comfortable with offering a perspective, right? You don't give a shit, right?
Yeah.
There's sides to the spectrum. Like he's on one side, I'm on the complete fucking other, right?
And jumping off of that, like for me, it's kind of the opposite. I've tried to be more of a people pleaser because innately, I'm kind of like, don't fucking bother me, leave me alone. But it's like, I'm trying to be more open and sociable. I'm not like an introvert by any sense of the imagination, but it's like, well, I don't want to be bothered. Don't fucking talk. It's like I'll be in class. I was very much like, I'll be alone. I don't care. I'm like, I'll walk to class and I'll be like very shut off and focused on the class, and I'm not really going to be trying open and talking to people. But now it's like, I feel like COVID with this is another challenge. Like I'm very conscious of trying to open myself up. Like I'm starting very much with body language. Like I'm trying to be very open with my body language because I catch myself like doing this or like this or something like that. You know, closing off, being closed off, like this, like as cool as like folding your arms may look, it's very inquisitive, but it's like this as portraying subliminally. It's like, you know, I'm hugging myself, I'm protecting myself from you. So you want, I've been trying to like be open, you know. Especially when girls are sitting next to me. Like, cause I'll do this, and cause it's my right hand, I'm right dominant, and some chick will be sitting on my right side, I'm like, fuck, let me switch over. Because it's like, I open up my body language to invite, you know, look more inviting. As opposed to looking closed off, which is very much kind of a default for me.
Yeah.
And, you know, like you said, I have no problem telling people no, cause I don't give a shit. I'm like, hey, if you're wrong, I'll tell you how it is.
Yeah,
you know, I'll be real with you. If it makes it pissed off, that's up to you. It's not my problem how you feel about what I'm telling you.
100%.
But it's like, for me, I'm trying to become more of a people pleaser just so I can expand my range of, you know, people, possible avenues for like relationships and, you know, experience with women, but also, you know, just to get, also to kind of fill a gap in my I guess social game, for lack of a better term. You know, it's like, it's trying to get better at talking to more people and getting them to like me, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
It's not what I'm going for, but it's just to develop more acute and refined social skills.
Gotcha.
And it's like, because I am very much come off as intense and too much.
Yes.
Just because of how I am. You know, I'm a loud dude. People tell me I sound like I'm from like Brooklyn or whatever, and I'm a big guy. You know, I've been told I look intimidating, but it's like, you know, I'm trying to be more open and kind of reel back my like, hey, what's going on? You know,
Find the right balance, right?
yeah, exactly. So it's like that's what I'm. You're trying to pull it forward. I'm trying to pull it back. You know.
Yeah, and it's very dependent on how you were raised, right? It's very dependent on like many factors, right?
Yeah.
Your present circumstances, as well as like how you react to these types of situations, right? Because we talked about this before on this. Like you could say that like, oh, dude, I'll always admit that I'm wrong. Like I am the most virtuous person, right? I am the most like all this type of stuff, right? But what really happens when that circumstance is presented to you, right? Like what are you actually going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like you could say I'm going to go up to that chick, right? Like, dude, I like say the night before you're talking to your roommate, like I'm going to go up to that hot chick tomorrow that I see in the gym every single day. But what happens when you're in that circumstance? You'd never go up to her.
No.
Right? Because you have to change your identity. Right?
Yeah.
You have to change. You have to say to your like subconscious self, right? Because consciously, like, it's different, right? Subconsciously is really like what dictates your reality, right?
Exactly.
And if you can take that first leap, that first jump into something new, then your subconscious will start to be like, oh, okay, something is starting to change, right? And then every single time you do it, maybe it's like still as scary as shit, but slowly over time, what do you know? It becomes more normal.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's a big thing with like public speaking for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like I have never had a problem with public speaking,
okay.
and like once it was weird because like once I got like really nervous, and it was kind of a kind of trend. Like I got a little bit of butterflies in my stomach, but I ignored it because one time I was like really sick. I should not have been at school. Like I was like pale, and I was up at the board, and my knees were fucking shaking. But I still presented like a champion. I'm like, what is, like my knees are literally shivering. I'm like, what is happening? Why do I feel nervous? But I just kept talking through it. I was just passionate about it. And it was like, good presentation. Even though it was like at death's door, pretty much. You know, I look like a fucking zombie out there presenting some like health project in middle school. And I'm just like, this is weird. I've never felt this before, but I don't really care too much about it. And it's the same thing like now. You know, I don't get stage fright, you know, like it'll be there a little bit, but I just fucking ignore it.
Yeah.
Like I talk, like I went up in front of my entire class. I told a funny story, and I felt like a champion because like I had my entire class laughing, and you know what the best part was? Dude, it was like some bathroom story or whatever, you know, like jokingly, and it was. The teacher that held the open mic was like, they took me off stage early, and my entire grade booed that teacher for not letting me finish the story. This was 8th grade. Yeah. I felt like a fucking superhero. I was like, yeah. Tell that story, dude. After we had like it's like it was called Web. It was like a study study hall period.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, finish. Everybody was like crowding around, like, yo, finish the story. And I'm like, all right, here's how it is. And it was, I felt like a fucking champion. Like a fucking champion. And it's like, that's one of those things where it's just like, you have to step, I don't know, step outside your comfort zone thing. But it's like, it's that same thing where you have to mentally recorrect yourself. You gotta change, you gotta switch up the channel and fly off the handle. That's what you gotta do.
Yeah.
Thank you, Beastie Boys, for that line. But, that's how it is. And that's another thing. It's like, that's what I'm constantly trying to do now. And I realize that, like I've been trying to dress better. And I am. Because, like, it was a little expensive, because buying clothes is expensive, but we have thrift stores for this reason.
Oh, yeah.
But, it's like, what people's first impression of you is like, what are you wearing? What does this guy look like? If you look like, I wore literally from middle school to throughout high school and the last 2 years, I wore sweatpants and a t-shirt fucking all the time. And I look like everywhere I go, I would look like I was coming from the gym. But now, I'm wearing jeans, nicer shirts. I'm assembling outfits. I'm layering and stuff like that. I'm trying to look better. And a lot of people have like been coming up to me, like Jordan, like Zane's girlfriend, has been telling me, like, damn, she like. I think when we ran into each other, and I was wearing the pink shirt, and it was like, coming for kills today, Colin. Like, fucking betcha. It's I'm looking better, and it's like, this is how I'm portraying myself, and like what I'm wearing makes me feel more confident, and me feeling more confident makes me feel like talking to people and be more open. So it's kind of a stepping stone process where I'm recorrecting my subconscious by changing myself externally.
Yeah.
I've always been, like I said this 3 times in this fucking cast. I'm gonna do a 4th or something like that. And it was like I was used to working in the shadows. I don't need, I'm not looking for a relationship because I'm working on myself. And I'm like, women will come. I just work on myself.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't need anybody else. But it's like now I'm like, maybe I should try and be a little bit more active with it and not as passive.
Yeah, I think that's that. Like when you mean active, like meaning like you're gonna take a step.
I'm consciously taking efforts to change like my subconscious to better open up my options in terms of being social.
100%. Yeah.
So it's like I'm consciously taking, like, I myself consciously am correcting myself externally to better, like, ease the subconscious into new practices, for lack of a better term.
The first step is scary. The first step is not easy, right? And, well, depending on what you're doing. But, like, I mean, I know anybody that steps outside their comfort zone, that boundary that they're normally used to, it is tough. It is tough, you know? But, like, you have to be willing to realize that your body is just trying to help you, right? Your body doesn't know that you want to do this. All it knows is what you're used to, right? And that, like, it's just, when it tells you not to do something, it's trying to keep you safe, right? It's trying to keep you, like, at least what it thinks is, like, you're in danger, right? And so if you can take that step while being consciously aware of whatever the fuck is going on in your body at that time, then you will be successful. And whether that be being wrong, whether that be going up to a girl, whether that be pursuing a dream that you have always wanted to do, you know, just fucking do it, right? You got no other time but now, right? So find a way, you could do it, and hell yeah.
Full send. You got a full send.
Full send.
That's how it is.
I put my phone on, do not disturb. Don't wanna talk, I don't wanna hear a word.